We'd like to welcome you to Health Consequences of a Warming Climate. There'll be 4 panelists, and then Congressman Charlie Bass will speak after the panelists. Is that still the case? He's not here yet. And this is sponsored by the Union of Concerned Scientists, and I should say that we, the public and scientific members of the UCS, are a bit more than concerned about things like the frequency of 100 and 1,000-year floods and droughts and melting ice cap and acidifying and rising oceans. And we'd like to add, the purpose of this forum and panel this morning is to add to the body of scientific data and information, and you'll be hearing about that will add to this list of things that are more than concerns. And we'd like you to take this information and this science to our leaders and our presidential candidates, who are in abundance in our state, including this weekend, and insist that the policy implications of what you'll be hearing this morning will be credibly addressed. And for we, members of the public, we hope that you'll do 3 things. We hope that you will push back in public forums whenever you hear candidates or leaders mock the science, as was the case. Speaker Gingrich, about a week ago, mocked the National Academy of Sciences for its findings. And let these candidates know that they are not credible if they're not willing to deal with the facts. And secondly, we'd like and encourage you to applaud candidates. For example, Mitt Romney, and we don't take sides in candidates, Mitt Romney, right in this room here 24 hours ago, in response to a question posed by a member of the public sitting in one of these seats here, stated that climate science is valid and that global warming is caused by humans. And to applaud candidates like Jon Huntsman, who 2 weeks ago in this state, in response to a question from a citizen here, also acknowledged that the science is real. And we'd like to take you, as part of step 2, ask these candidates to move to the next step, which is, what do we do about it? Give us specific policy recommendations that will address the problem that they have acknowledged is real. And item 3, if the Koch brothers want to talk about economics, let's do exactly that. And this air pollution that we'll hear about this morning is causing, as you'll hear, is causing suffering, disease, and early death for millions of Americans. And this suffering and disease and early death has cost consequences, which can be avoided at far lower cost by action such as the modest pollution control recommendations being proposed by the EPA under the Clean Air Act. And we'd encourage you to sign. There are some postcards in back there if you'd like to indicate your preferences to members of Congress. Right there at that table it says National Wildlife Federation as you go out. Appreciate that. And we have 5 panelists this morning, and I'm going to introduce them all now, if that's okay, just for efficiency's sake. First is Dr. Doug Dockery. He's a professor of environmental epidemiology and chairman of the Department of Environmental Health at Harvard School of Public Health. And Professor Dockery is most well known, and he will speak about his experiences that date into the 1990s. Is that about right? Where he played a very leading role in promulgating and quantifying the impact of particulate air pollution on human health, and experienced, very parallel to what we're experiencing here today, pushback from the fossil fuel interests to suppress the science that he found was the case and is robust and was robust. We'll hear secondly from Liz Martin-Pereira, who's senior Washington representative for climate change policy at Union of Concerned Scientists, and she is a co-author of a report that UCS has released this week, brand new information about the health consequences of warming through just one pathway. And she will present that new data here this morning. We'll hear next from Dr. Sylvia Brandt, who's associate professor and economist at the Department of Resource Economics and Center for Public Policy and Administration at the University of Massachusetts in Amherst. She's a member of EPA's Scientific Advisory Council on Clean Air Compliance and is an expert on the effects of air pollution on child asthma and on the impacts, the differential impacts on different demographic groups. They're much more serious for varying demographic groups. And finally, among our experts, we'll hear from Dr. Mark Wint, a practicing physician, Seacoast area physician, specializing in asthma, allergy, and pulmonary health. And finally, we'll hear from Congressman Charlie Bass, who is among us, sitting back there. He'll be the fifth panelist. And at the end of that, when these folks, each of them, make their remarks, Q&A from the audience. And all of the panelists will come here and sit at the table and free-flowing Q&A. And we, again, appreciate very much your coming.